Peace and blessings, a whole lot of love. I look sleepy, but yeah, I am a little sleepy. But I just want to do this story time because I really enjoy sharing my personal experiences with the world in hopes of reaching someone who may be going through what I'm going through, and let them know, yes, you might have made a bad choice, but if you want better, then you can do better, but you have to want it. So here it goes. My 14-year-old beautiful young lady, beautiful teenager, got a lot going on. Came to me in my room. I'm sitting, I don't know what I was doing when she came into my room. She got on my bed, laid on my bed, and was like, tell my father that he only has one daughter. So I'm like, huh? With a smile. She said, yeah, tell my father he only has one daughter. The last daughter he has, that's his daughter because I'm no longer his daughter. As a mom, do you know how that make me feel? How that made me feel? And the fact that a couple of months ago she told me she want her last name changed. And when I asked, she said, I don't want my father's last name because he's not a good dad. That makes me feel so bad. You know why? Because I chose that man. I entertained that man. I laid down with that man. I married that man. Or when let me go to the beginning. When I met him, I was at a few months of getting past the depression that I was diagnosed with. So when I got with him, I was no longer depressed, but I was still taking my medication. That's number one. So I would say that I wasn't emotionally or mentally ready to be in a relationship with anyone. Or was I looking for someone to love me because maybe I wasn't loving myself? Was I looking for someone or prove my worth to someone because I wasn't valuing my own worth? There could be a lot of reasons why I chose him, and it wasn't the right decision. So anyway, as I said, I met him, right when I was coming, healing from my depression episode. Um, a couple of weeks, I won't even say 2 months after, you know, entertaining him, my gut feeling was telling me that he was a cheater. I just had like it was like my inner voice was speaking to me saying, man, don't get involved with him. He's a cheater. I never experienced that before. Now I would say that the only real relationships I really had was my two marriages and the guy that I'm with now. Anybody else before that was not someone that I was in a serious relationship with. It was mostly situationship, just a sexual relationship. We go out, we do that, but it was never that it was a relationship. But I never experienced having that feeling that the man that I'm involved with is a cheater. So that's sign number one that I chose to ignore. So I continued to see him and be with him and be intimate with him. A few months down the line, we went out to my co-worker's house and we got intoxicated. We had a good night, came back home. I think that's the night I probably got pregnant because we were being careful because neither one of us wanted to have a child. I already had a 16-year-old, 14-year-old, and no, I had no. They were 7, 16, 14, and 9 when I met him. So, and it was by my first husband. First of all, I never did wanted to have children by more than one man. And I wasn't trying to have no more children. So anyway, so like I said, the first sign was I had a feeling he was a cheater, and I chose to ignore that. Then this man didn't have no, this is what I realized after I got out of the relationship with him. When I went back and started looking at who I was at the time when I met him. Another red sign was he had a criminal history. He was on parole when I met him. So he had just served time for robbery. That's number two. Number three, he had a 3-month-old. Um, Looking back, why would a man who got an infant child is sitting up there trying to start a new relationship instead of getting his life together and being a dad to his son? Another red flag was this man didn't have a job. He was claiming he was looking for a job, but he was out there robbing and stealing, sticking people up. Because he brought a gun to my house. That was another sign, red flag that I chose to ignore. Another red flag was he would go get his son, who was 3 months at the time when I met him. Supposed to be, spending time with his son because him and his mother was not together. And he would get his son and he would take his son to his house where his mother lived at because he did live with his mother and all his sisters. But he would leave his son at his mother's house for his sisters to babysit and come be with me. So after a few weeks, when I noticed that, I told him that if we're going to be seeing each other, you don't go get your son and leave your son downstairs. I didn't like that. So if you're going to see me, then you go get your son and you bring your son upstairs with you. And he did. That was another red flag. Another red flag, this man had an infant child but had no money to take care of his child, to the point where he was asking me money to help buy milk. All these signs, all these red flags, or whatever you call it, was there. But guess what Goddess Hadiyah chose to do? Ignore it all and continue my relationship with him. End up getting pregnant, like I said. He ended up going to jail. I ended up marrying him. When he went to jail, when I was 8 months pregnant. When my daughter was 3 months, I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move out the projects, and I'm going to take my ass down to Philly. I'm glad I did that. The best decision ever. Ever. The best decision. So during the course of his 8 years, me and my child, our daughter, I traveled back and forth from Philadelphia to New York to upstate so my daughter can build a relationship with her father who is behind bars. My family was against it. My mother was against it, but she said, you're going to learn. You will learn. So when he came home from jail, he put in a transfer to have his parole, to be paroled to Philly, but at the last minute, he decided to not do it and end up moving back with his mother. Now, at that point, I was like, okay, you know what? This man not ready to be no husband. This man don't want to be nobody's husband. He don't want to be a dad. He want to continue living the life he was living before he got locked up. So my first thought was to go ahead and file for divorce. So when I sit down and discuss this with my daughter, she was like, I want my mommy and my daddy together. My daddy made all these promises. So I felt bad as a mother. First of all, I already felt bad because I got involved and married someone I shouldn't have had. Then he fathered my child. So those were two things that was already making me feel bad. So to try to make things right, I decided to put the divorce on hold and travel back and forth to New York so my daughter and I can try to build this marriage and this family that my daughter wants. Meanwhile, while I'm doing this for a couple of months, he decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and sleep around. End up cheating with someone that he already knew from childhood that lived in the same area that his mother lived. The same house where I come to every weekend because we weren't living together, but we was living as husband and wife, acting like husband and wife, but we were living in separate households. Sometimes I just get so mad at myself because I didn't have to go through what I did. But that's when you not loving yourself and you don't know your worth, you get involved with the wrong man. And what's another thing was that was very spiritual was I had a dream before I met him, 2 years before I met him. I had a dream that God was pulling me up this way. It was like God and devil was fighting over me. And God told me, you're going to have a daughter. And you're going to be raising her by yourself. And in my dream, I looked up to God and said, I promise to raise her right. And boom, that was the warning. That if I keep seeing this man, I'm going to get pregnant. I'm going to have a daughter. And I was going to be raising her by myself. And that's exactly what happened. So I learned so much from this situation once I got out of it. But even though I left him for the cheating and getting the chick pregnant and the chick, it was so much drama. I talked about it in some of my YouTube videos. But so I left him and cut off all contact. He had no contact with me or his daughter. And he didn't bother trying either. He left whatever I chose to do, he left it at that. This man exposed his child to so much negative things. He exposed her to alcohol abuse, being drunk and passing out, and talking to females in the street while he's with his daughter. He exposed his side chick to his daughter. He just wasn't a good role model for my child. So that was when I cut him off. I cut off all contact. He didn't have no contact with her because he was destroying my child with the lies and all the things that he was exposing her to. And as a parent, it's your job to provide and protect your child, even if it's from the other parent who is toxic. So 4 years later, I talked about this in that video. My daughter, he saw my sister, and my sister gave him my information, and I allowed him to re-enter me and my daughter's life. But even that, like within the first couple of phone calls, when I'm telling you, never ignore your intuition. Never, ladies, unless you psycho yourself and you mental, you got some deep rooted issues. When your gut feeling is telling you that somebody ain't right or a situation is right, you must pay attention to it. When I was talking to him and questioning him, I felt this man still sleeping with the same freaking side chick. He claimed he wasn't with her. He told my sister he wasn't with her. But he was still fucking her. He wasn't in a relationship with her. She thought he was in a relationship with her. But he wasn't. If a woman gonna allow you to come to her house and lay out with her whenever he damn well please, that's what he's gonna do. So she thought they were in a relationship, but he was in a relationship with her, but he was getting that ass. So I felt that he was still cheating. So I decided, okay, I'm went against my better judgment. He came here a few times. But it was never nothing that made me feel like I really want to get back when I was telling my daughter, Mommy can't do it. But she was all right with that decision. She was telling me, Mommy, you deserve better. My dad is still lying. Like, she was telling me things. She told me that only time my dad talked to me is if you're talking to him. Because throughout those, from the time of the first phone calls, after the 4 years, until the time I completely cut him off for good again, she was paying so much attention that she brought it to my attention that, because when I wouldn't talk to him, he didn't call her. When I talked to him is when he talked to her. When I was on good terms with him is when she can get money from him. But when I said I want to have nothing to do with him, he ain't had nothing to do with her. She pointed that out to me. And that's when I was like, you know what? I gave him an opportunity to prove himself to me. He failed once again, so he gets no more chances. So I cut off all contact with him again. I haven't seen him in almost 7 months. Almost 7 months. He don't send no child support. I don't ask for no child support. Because when all said and done, you're going to have to face their daughter. And she's not going to bite her tongue. And you're going to stand there and you're going to listen to whatever that little girl has to say to you. But the reason for me is telling this story is you have to take accountability for the men that you entertain. Because no one is putting no gun to our heads and tell us to sleep with that man when we know they're not right. I knew he had a criminal history. I knew he was on parole. I knew he was out there robbing and stealing. I knew he didn't have no job. I knew that he couldn't take care of the son that he already had. I knew he wasn't self-sufficient. But I still chose to not only entertain him, allow him to get me pregnant through carelessness, and then turn around and marry him. And then when he came home from jail, I still tried to be a wife to him for the sake of my daughter. So every now and then I get upset at myself because I still don't think I forgave myself completely for the choices I made when it came to that man. And I think I'm so hard on myself because my daughter is the one that had to suffer the most because that's her father. See, once I'm done with him, I'm done with him. But he will forever be her father. But I'm going to say I am grateful for my two sons, ages 29 and 24. They don't have a bunch of kids. I only have one grandson, and my son is a damn good father. So everything that she needs to know about a man, she is learning through her brothers. It is her brothers who let her know she's beautiful. It is her brothers that talk to her about boys. It is her brothers that are going to protect her when she needs the protection. It is her brothers who going to give her that tough love. It is her brothers that encourage her to stay in school and get good grades and to be the best she can. It is her brother that's instilling in her, you don't need no man to give you the attention because you should love yourself and know your worth. It is her brothers that's doing everything that her father should be doing. So I am grateful for my sons, and I tell them all the time. When a child, a daughter, lacks a father figure in her life, she end up making bad choices in men. And I'm speaking from experience. And I know there's a lot of women who watch this video will feel the same way. And when your child, your daughter, or your son don't have a good role, a good father figure in their life, then it's up to you to have people in your child's life that are good for them, especially men, because a child have to have masculine and feminine energy. There's things that the mother's supposed to teach the child, and there's things that the father supposed to teach the child. So when that child is lacking one of those, they can become a problem child that's dealing with a lot of issues when they grow up. And one issue that a daughter will deal with, a little girl will deal with, is daddy issues. So if that's not reconciled within her, she will go out there and be promiscuous because she's going to be looking for love in all the wrong places because she didn't get it from her daddy. Because a girl's first love is her dad. And if her dad has did wrong to her, it could really mess up her for life. So it's the mother's responsibility to protect her child if the father is toxic. You a child need both parents, but if the parent is toxic and setting bad examples that can harm the child or cause lifelong scars for the child, then that parent needs to not be around that child. And it's your responsibility as a mother to protect your child. You should not be worrying about whether or not you're going to get some dick and some attention. If that man is not bringing anything to the table but his dick, where he's not protecting you, he's not respecting you, he's not providing for you in your household, then why are you with him? If only thing you getting is the eggplant, he should not be in your life, because what kind of examples are you setting for your daughters and your sons? A child needs both parents, but like I said, if the parent is toxic and causing more harm than good, then that parent has to go. I don't have to worry about my daughter out there sleeping around looking for love and boys. She's not out there self-medicating herself because she's suffering from a lot of emotional and mental pain because her dad ain't right. She's doing good in school. She hasn't been left back. She goes to school every day. She's in the house. I know her whereabouts. She's not sneaking off to go to some party. She's not running away. She doesn't have any of those negative behaviors that I see or that my oldest daughter see, because she works with teenagers who have those problems because of the stuff they had to experience growing up. So it's my responsibility to protect my child. It's my responsibility to set good examples and instill in her self-love, to know your worth, and to respect yourself, and never be looking for love outside of yourself. Never look to a man to make you happy, because happiness is an inside job. But yes, I had to, when I got out of that situation the first time, I sat back and I self-analyzed, and I'm like, why was you with him? You knew A, B, C, D, E, and F about this man, and you still continue to be with him. And it all boils down to self-love and your self-worth. And then I lowered my standards. Because when I met him, I wasn't I wasn't ready emotionally or mentally to be entertaining any man for that matter. I wasn't lonely because I love being by myself. Because that's why my decision is now like, yes, I have a man in my life. He knows that I have a different view on marriage, not because I went to, but because what I've learned about the marriage license. And it's a whole bunch of stuff that I've learned. So my thing is, you don't have to be married to be committed to someone. There's so many people that are in marriages and they're not happy. But then you got people who've been together 20 or 30 years. Then they never did it legally, but technically they are still married. That marriage license ain't something to generate money for the state. So I am in a healthy relationship where he can come here, I can go to his house, but we will not be living together because that's something I don't want. That's something I don't need. I know how to be by myself. That's why I had to learn myself, because I always felt that way, but I never knew that I felt that way until I started learning who Amanda Barton was. Peace, blessings, and a whole lot of love. I hope this story time touches someone. I hope this story time teaches someone something, that you must love yourself. Don't ever stay with a man for the sake of your kids. Don't get into a relationship when you are broken. Don't let no man cheat on you, manipulate you, lie to you, steal from you, take from you. Don't let a man do nothing like that to you. Love yourself enough to know that you deserve the best. God is Hadiyah.